Hello, thanks for checking out my video. Today we're going to be working on our fine motor skills, our visual motor integration skills, and some bilateral coordination skills as we use these materials here to draw shapes, match colors, and then cut out the shapes or color in the shapes, whichever order you prefer. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And the first thing that I think I'd like to do is maybe do a little bit of prep for my student beforehand so I can remove all of this extra material out of the way right now. And the preparation that I think we could do as educators beforehand is draw the shape that you want, either a circle, a square, a rectangle, or a triangle. We'll do 4 of them. And draw them each in their own color here so that we can go ahead and match our pom-poms to the color shape that we made. So the first step for us as the educator is to prep the activity here by drawing 4 different shapes and 4 different colors. So I'll go ahead and get started with that. They don't have to be perfectly drawn, but we do want to maybe be mindful of what size shape we're looking to use here. I think that as long as we stay somewhere around the half a page mark, that should be okay. I think if we're using the full page, it might be a little bit too much. And if it's too small of a shape, we won't have enough room to put our pom-poms into it to match the colors. So somewhere around half of the page should be just fine. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my green crayon and just draw a circle. And if your student has the ability to draw the circle, then they can do that too. But again, this is really just to get the activity started. So it's okay if the educator draws the circle for the student or draws any of the other shapes. So the circle was green. Next shape I'm going to do is the triangle. That can be blue. Put that off to the side. And then I'll do a red square. Put that over here. And then my last one will be a rectangle. And I'll do this rectangle in yellow. And the whole time we can tell our students what we are doing to develop a little bit of language. You know, we can say rectangle, or we can talk about the shape or the color. And once we have our shapes on our paper in 4 different colors, we are ready to start placing stickers on them. So I have a bunch of different color stickers here. And for this one, I'm just only going to use the yellow. So I'm going to put the rest of these guys off to the side here. And I'm going to match the sticker color to the color of my shape. So for this rectangle, I'm going to use yellow. And I'm going to let my student, if they can, peel off these stickers. Get a nice pincer grasp with their dominant hand. Good stabilization with their non-dominant hand. And then we're going to use our visual perception skills here to identify the line and to match the color to place the sticker on the line that matches the color. So I'm going to go ahead and try this again. If your student has a difficult time peeling the sticker off of the paper, you can do that for them and just kind of put it on their hand like so that they don't really have to manipulate the paper with their non-dominant hand. If you just put the sticker on there, they'll just peel it right off their hand, and then we can get into the meat part of this activity where we are placing the sticker onto the correct colored line. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up the rest of these yellow stickers now. So now that I have my first shape completed with the stickers all along the edge right here, so So I've got some good visual perception skills, a lot of good accuracy with my fine motor abilities, with getting the sticker out and putting it onto the paper in the correct on the correct line. And once I've completed that, I can go ahead and color. I can color in this area right here, and I can go ahead and color in the entire shape. As I colored in my shape, I was stabilizing my paper with my non-dominant hand, which is something we can encourage our students to do, just with a little tactile cue, maybe placing your hand on top of their hand, that they understand that they're using their hand for a purpose here. And the other component of it was that I'm really not using a ton of fine motor skills with this coloring, because I'm really using a lot of whole arm movements, because the size of the shape is large enough where I don't need to just be precise with my coloring. I can really get some good gross motor skills in here to color in the shape. Now, the third part is these stickers. They do offer a little bit of a tactile cue, like a little bit of a warning system that I'm coming to the edge of my shape here. So the tactile cue is offering a little bit of extra spatial awareness for our students as they color in their shapes. Now that I've got my yellow rectangle complete, I can put it off to the side and move on to my next shape, which can be my square. So I'm going to do the same thing with the square. I'm going to find my red stickers, and maybe I'll start just by putting them on the corner. In the corners there. And you can direct your student with a nice visual cue of your finger, or you can have a verbal cue also and say, place it here, so that we can be accurate with our placement. And if your student requires a little bit of extra cue, you can have your hand be the guiding hand. As long as they initiate the movement, we aren't doing all of the task for them. We're really just helping control their motor movement with nice accuracy to the placement of our sticker. So I'm going to go ahead and complete this portion of this activity, and then we will go and color it in like we did the rectangle. And I'm almost done with this. Maybe just a couple more. And we'll be done with that. Give it an extra border. Alright, perfect. Now we're ready to color it in. You'll notice I have this egg crayon here. These crayons are really great for people who are developing fine motor skills. So the good part about it is it encourages a lot of good flexion of our hand, getting some good grip and pinch strength as well. But really, it's placing our fingers in a position where later we can move on to a smaller object and use the same fine motor skills, but just on a scaled down sort of model here. So these are really great if you are kind of just learning how to use your fine motor skills for coloring. But for me, I'm going to go ahead and use my red crayon here, get a nice dynamic tripod grasp or a lateral tripod. And we can also do this with a broken crayon, which is what I'm using here. It's a very similar kind of technique with the larger crayon here, but instead of we're developing our fine motor skills, we've already got some pretty good fine motor skills at this point if we're using a small, thin crayon. So these are the two different extremes of developing the fine motor skills. The same fine motor skills can be developed there. So I'm going to use this crayon, and I'm going to go ahead and color in my shape, much like I did my yellow rectangle. And then I'm going to go ahead and complete my blue triangle and green circle. Now that I have all of the stickers on my shapes according to their color, we've matched the color there, I'm ready to bring in the rest of my shapes here. And let's see if I can get them all in the frame. They're perfect. So for this one, we have all of our shapes now. And once we do that and we have it all set up, we are going to get our bag of Pom Poms, and we can spread them out all around our visual field here, so all around the kind of the border of where we're working, so that we have to work on our scanning ability and increasing the range of our scanning ability. Or we can just do it one by one. We can just give our student one pom-pom at a time and have them matched to the correct color here. So really we're just matching color with the pom-poms to our sheet of paper here, and switch it up just to make it the right challenge for your student. So we really want to be tuned into your students' abilities and some of their strengths, because we want to use their strengths to, you know, have them be successful with this activity here. So if you have bulb tongs, you can use bulb tongs. They'll mimic the action of scissors. It's like a little scooper. You can use your bulb tongs and place them in the correct color shape. That's another variation of this activity. Really, it's up to you to be creative to keep your student motivated here. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and just have one bag full of these in my non-dominant hand, and I'll just pull them out one by one and match them. But that's just what I'm going to do. I encourage you to maintain your independence here. And as you are placing your pom-poms onto your paper, another thing you can do, because eventually we are going to cut out these shapes, so we can just match them to the paper so that we can clean them up later and have it not really be a problem or a mess at all. But another thing I think I'd like to do is to glue these onto the paper so that when we go to cut them out, they have a nice kind of tactile component, nice tactile cue component to it, so that if my scissors go off of these stickers here, if they travel inward, then I'm going to end up cutting the pom-pom, which I'll probably not be successful with. So that'll encourage me to go back to the line of stickers here and to use this outside sticker visual and tactile cue to maintain a nice kind of spatial relationship here with my shape. So I think I'm going to glue these down as I get them. As we glue them down, it's really important for your student to develop his or her grip and pinch strength. So for that, I think I'd like to use this glue bottle versus a glue stick, where we really aren't getting any good grip and pinch strength. But, you know, with the glue stick, we're just really kind of working almost on maybe like a tripod grasp, a sort of lateral tripod grasp, even maybe a digital pronate, or really it's not very, very advanced with this large glue stick anyway. And it might not work as well with these pom-poms. So for those reasons, I'm going to take the glue stick and put it aside and use a glue bottle, because I just want to work on developing my lumbrical muscles and getting some good grip and pinch strength going. So as I match, I think instead of holding the bag, I think I'll just put it on my non-dominant hand side, and I can use my dominant hand for gluing, or, you know, the other way around, you can use your dominant hand side for picking out the pom-poms. Whatever you choose is fine. But for me, I'm stronger with my right side, so I'm going to use my right hand for the grip and pinch part of this with the glue. So I've got my pom-pom. I'm going to put down some glue, and then I'm just going to glue that to the paper. and go back and get another one here. And you'll notice my visual field at this point is these four different shapes here. We can reduce the visual field and only have one shape out here, but that might maybe we might want to then kind of give our students just one pom pom at a time. But yeah, we can increase the visual field, make this challenge a little bit more complex, or we can really make it as complicated as we need to. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave my bag there, get another pom pom, glue it onto my paper here, and I'm only gonna use, I don't know, about 6 or 7 in here, and then I'm gonna move on to the next. So I'm getting some good visual discrimination skills here with the color pom poms. I'm finding the one that I want, which is blue, and I'm crossing the midline of my body to access my target over here, getting some good visual motor skills, scanning from my pile of pom poms over to my target. And I'm going to continue on here with this pom pom. And let's see here, I could probably get a couple more on. I'm just going to squeeze them in. And this will be my second to last one here. And I'll do one more at the top. All right, and maybe actually I'll do one more at the bottom too. So yeah, you can just fill in your space. It's perfect right there. All right, so now that I have my pom-pom glued onto my paper in the correct color square, or color shape rather, I can move on to my next shape. So I'm going to set this off to the side, and for this one I'm also going to remove some of the visual clutter from my visual field here, and maybe I'll dump out these pom-poms from their bag so they're easier for me to see. So just like that, I made this activity much easier to do. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this green circle. So I'm using this nice cardstock paper, which has a little bit of extra weight to it, and it's a little bit more firm than, say, printer paper. But if you have printer paper, then maybe we wouldn't put as much glue down, or we maybe wouldn't put as many pom-poms onto our paper. But if you have this nice thick cardstock paper, then you could really load up your paper with pom-poms here. I'm going to go ahead and move my green circle out of the way, and now I can begin finishing up the yellow rectangle and the red square. And for this one, I'm going to make the challenge a little bit more complicated, and I'm going to dump out all of the rest of my pom-poms off to the side here. All the remaining colors that I have from the blue and the green, as well as the yellow and the red. So now I'm having to use some good visual discrimination skills to identify the color, and then I have to make sure I correctly match it with this. So I'm going to go ahead and finish these different shapes now. Now that I have all of my shapes complete with the different pom-poms glued on according to their color, put the rest of these in the frame here, I can go ahead and just kind of clean up my station a little bit. Put my excess pom-poms back in my bag just to get these out of the way. And now we can work very easily with some just basic materials here on some discrete trials. If you're doing the ABA thing, maybe we're looking to touch the green or identify colors, touch yellow. Maybe we're working on shapes, we want to touch the rectangle or the square. Now's a good time to practice this before we cut it out. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that up to you to decide if that's how you want to do this activity. For me, I think I'm ready to use my scissors. So oriented them correctly on my hand, and I'm going to go and remove some of these other items from my visual field, and I'll just put them off to the side, and then I'll be ready to cut them out. As I'm cutting, I really want to be mindful of how I'm using my non-dominant hand. So we can have it kind of floating like so, or we can stabilize it on our table. And we can do that if your student maybe doesn't have quite as much upper extremity strength. We definitely want to stabilize it on the table. But if they're developing some good core strength, or maybe developing a little strength in their deltoids or upper extremities, you can have them hold the paper, provided it doesn't flop over like that. But my cardstock paper, we can just hold it like that. And I'm going to use these stickers not only as a visual cue, but as a tactile cue for me to stay along this border here. So I'm offering a tactile cue to help develop some good spatial awareness. I'm going to go ahead and start cutting. I'm doing a lot of good visual motor integration skills here, using my scissors to cut along the line. Now, how am I going to rotate this? So I might need to incorporate my dominant hand again. This is where it gets a little complex. Or I can just set it down, turn it, and pick it back up. And then I'm going to finish cutting along this side. And when I'm done with that, I'll turn it over and finish. And if you have really good scissor skills, you may not need to finish cutting all the way out. Maybe you can just rotate your scissors around, your hand around, until you cut out the shape. Perfect. Now that I have the square cut out, I can put the square off to the side and move on to my next shape, which will be the green circle. So I'm going to go ahead and complete my scissor portion of this activity now. So that's it for today's activity. We are done with this portion, or actually we're done with the whole activity. And what we've worked on this whole time, really some great fine motor skills with our writing instruments by coloring in the shapes. We've worked on some good spatial awareness with our boundaries here, highlighted by the tactile cues of the stickers. We've also worked on our visual perception as we place the sticker onto the target accurately, as we made our border. We did the same skill, maybe with a little bit less accuracy, by placing our pom poms into the shapes. We've worked on some good grip and pinch strength with our glue. And of course, we've always been working on our bilateral coordination here, using our non-dominant hand to stabilize our object. And we've also, out of all these things, really been working on some good visual motor skills, scanning throughout a large visual field, and the visual perception skills required to then discriminate between which color shape we have and to match our colors accordingly. So thanks for watching my video. I hope you found it useful. Please feel free to get in touch with me if you have any questions on how to implement these strategies with your student.